Hi guys and welcome back. My name's Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor, and in this video we're going to be talking about the budget and what the Chancellor's just announced and the potential that this has to affect our housing market and in essence could bring on a property crash either this year or next. And you know me, I'm incredibly bullish when it comes to property, but this budget really made me stop and think about some of the outcomes that could happen from some of the announcements. So stay with me, we've got some stuff to talk about in this. This is going to be a cowboy boots kind of video, this one. And guys, before I get too far into the video, if you want to have a one-to-one conversation with me, remember, until I get to 1,000 subscribers, if you click a link in the description, you can book a call with me. And remember, once I get to 1,000 subscribers, we've got a really cool roadmap from giving dividends to my subscribers to giving away a house eventually. I'm going to actually put in the description the 5 steps over the next couple of years, what I'm hoping to do with the channel. So have a look at those. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing. But let's get back to the video. So yeah, the announcements that Rishi has put out, not what I was expecting at all. And you know what, there is some good and some bad, but we'll start with the good, okay? So first of all, the furlough scheme, a lifeline for so many Britons. I think there's 6.2 million people currently on furlough. That's been extended all the way through to September. Now that's really going to support jobs and make sure that people that might have otherwise been made redundant in the short term stay with their employer and potentially return to work over the summer period. Similarly, the help for the self-employed has also been extended, 80% of profits up to £7,500 up to September. That's also going to be really beneficial for the economy. Next, let's talk about stamp duty. Now the stamp duty holiday, that's also been extended all the way through to June. Now, in reality, that's probably not going to affect any deals that are being done today because it takes between 3, 4, 5 months to get the deals through. So that's really only helping people that put their deal in the pipeline a few months ago. And for me, that policy is probably to stop people dropping out of deals as they get closer and closer to this cut-off period. So I don't see this as ongoing support for the property market. I just think this is a bit of a plaster to get us through the next few months when hopefully some normality will return. But they have introduced something that will affect the property market moving forward. And that is 95% mortgages, which are going to be government backed. Now, this isn't the government taking an equity stake in the loan or an equity stake in the property like it is with Help to Buy. This is them guaranteeing a proportion of the mortgage to allow people that otherwise might not be able to get a mortgage to get a mortgage. Now, we have to kind of look at this policy and sort of think, what are the outcomes that could happen? Now, we can look at 2007, 2008, and we could say back then people were over leveraged. People were borrowing 100% mortgage, 95% mortgages, and they're getting into real trouble when the economy took a bit of a dive. Now, I don't think it's quite the same because the government are actually going to be taking a stake in this loan and guaranteeing it. But what I really think this does do is show that the government are backing UK property and interest rates. They're backing the fact that that's going to have to be an all-time low for a long period of time to allow people that otherwise may not be able to afford a mortgage to have a mortgage. And let me tell you, at this point of the announcement, I was very much like, okay, I can understand what's going on. The government, we're going to spend our way out of this crisis. We're going to make sure that people can buy assets that we're going to then inflate in value over time. We're going to allow inflation to take care of this massive debt that we have. We'll keep interest rates really low. Wages will start to increase. Companies will make more money. Everybody will become richer. I could understand the policy at this point. And I was thinking, my man Rishi, he's got me. But then they completely lost me because they started talking about pay freezes and corporation tax rises. Now you might think, well, why would that matter? Why does corporation tax rises matter? So let me just spell it out for you. When you look at a graph of tax receipts versus corporation tax rates, tax receipts generally go down when corporation tax goes up. Now the reason is the country becomes less attractive to companies to invest in when corporation tax is high. Conversely, when corporation tax is low, companies don't mind making a lot of profit in that country. So what you can see on a graph is that there's a direct correlation between corporation tax rates and declared company profits. So this policy really did lose me. And then I wondered, maybe it's just a vote winner, right? Maybe it's a vote winner. But then they announced a 1% pay rise for our NHS. And I just knew that that was going to blow up in the papers. And I really got lost with this budget. I didn't really understand what we were trying to do. It doesn't seem like we're trying to play one specific game, but maybe play all of them. So perhaps one of my thought processes was that the corporation tax was purely for money markets, to say to the money markets that, you know, British sterling's safe, we are going to repay our debts, you can borrow and lend in sterling, we are a good place to do business. And this could just be for the debt markets. Conversely, it does mean that investment will dry up in the country and that people will put their money elsewhere. And I was actually speaking to one of my friends who's a landlord. He's got about 40 properties, so he's quite a big landlord. And his initial response was, well, I'll have to raise rents in order to meet this extra tax, won't I? I'm sure this is not an intended consequence, but I'm sure it will happen. I think landlords will put up their rents in order to meet the tax demand. So you've got to expect that to be an outcome. So where does this leave the economy and what's going to happen to the housing prices? Now, my central prediction, and I'm quite willing to go back in a year's time and have a look and see if I was right, that this year we will experience the continuation of a mini boom. I think we have a lot of extra money sloshing around in the system. The furlough scheme, the bounce back loans, all of these things have contributed to record amounts of money sitting in people's bank accounts. So I think that there'll be a mini boom over the next year or so, but I think we might be in for a bit of a rude awakening in 2022. So you guys are going to want me to put a figure on it. So I'm going to go for a property price rise January to January 2021 to 2022 of 5%. Maybe 6. So I'm going to say a continuation of a mini boom. Last year I think it was 7.9%. This year 5%. And then I think it will slow even more into 2022. And I think the reason being that as we approach this corporation tax rise, larger companies may start to make redundancies in order to slim down their costs, in order to make sure that their net profit, i.e. the profit after tax, is still the same as before the tax rise. Because shareholders will demand that. Shareholders will want the same outcome. Here's the one thing that I'm not going to predict. I don't think property prices will fall. And I know that I've said that there might be a crash. I just don't think there will be, to be honest. I think the reality is that if the UK government is backing all the loans, if the UK government is taking that much of an interest in making sure that the property market is propped up, then that firepower ultimately will make sure that the property market continues to rise, or at least is stable. So I don't believe for one second that the market will be allowed to crash. If it does start to crash, I expect to see lots of money printed, lots of stimulus put into the economy to really supercharge it. If you look at what's happening in America at the moment, $1.9 more trillion. 1.9 trillion. This is more money than has ever been printed. And last year, 3.8 trillion was printed, and that equated to 20% of all dollars in circulation. This is an insane amount of money. And this money is going to go throughout the entire world economy because lots of business is done in dollars. Lots of companies in the UK trade in dollars. They also trade with America. There's lots and lots of money that's going to be printed, put to work and allowed to permeate throughout the world. So there's plenty of money sloshing around the system. I can't see why we wouldn't be able to do a similar quantitative easing kind of exercise if we got into trouble and we needed to heat the economy up. So I can see a scenario where there is a housing crash, let me be clear, but I just don't believe it will ever be allowed to happen. The scenario that I envisage where there's a housing price crash is when interest rates start to rise. And if this was to happen, lots of people who've taken out loans and mortgages that wouldn't be able to afford the remortgages would then start to sell their properties. The reason I don't think this will be allowed to happen is as property prices then start to come down, the entire of the UK will become poorer. A lot of UK wealth is tied up in property and asset classes. I just don't see this happening. I don't see it being allowed to happen. So my central prediction is a property price rise, 5% next year, probably going down to 3-4% and maybe then flattening right off over the coming years. But what do you think? What's your prediction? Do you think I've got it completely wrong? Perhaps there will be a crash, I don't know. I just think that there's so much money sloshing around that the government would be mad to not just pay the rest of the bill, whatever that might be. So I've been Mark Parham. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed making it, and I'll see you again on Friday when we're going to be doing a tour of the property up in Corby, which is now 2 weeks into its reno and 3 weeks away from being completed. So I look forward to showing you around that. I'm going up there tomorrow to do the filming, and I will show you around it on Friday when I release that video.